Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Over Coffee, our morning talk show on the Long Island Tabletop Streaming Network, where we talk about almost anything, including games.
Almost
Once in a,
anything.
almost anything, that's true. Including games once in a while, at least, we talk about games. Uh, hey, listen to us while you're getting ready for work. Chat with us, comment us, subscribe, follow. We'd love to have your feedback. We'd love some topics. And last night I got a chance to play Mictum RPG. I will put a link in the chat in just a minute. As part of Mastermind Adventures. So that was a lot of
Wait,
fun.
hold
I had a
on.
good time.
Let me
Yeah.
guess. Your character was Treble.
Oh, you were watching?
No, your Zoom name came up as Treble.
Oh, whoops.
Eh,
You are so smart, Rich. You're so
eh.
smart. Yes, my character's name was Treble. Hey, how was your weekend for you guys? You play any games? Do anything interesting?
I did play a game. I played Forbidden Sky with my daughter.
Ooh, I'm not familiar with that. What?
Are you familiar with Forbidden Island and Forbidden Desert?
Yes.
Same company created Forbidden Sky.
Cool.
In
And
For, in Forbidden Sky, you need to create an actual circuit to power a rocket so you can leave a platform that floats 7,000 feet above the ground.
cool. I'm looking it up right now on BoardGameGeek.com.
In the meantime, you have to avoid lightning and battle high winds
Okay, interesting.
as you work
So
together.
some environmental stuff, which I guess the other thing has flooding. So,
Yeah, we lost.
Yeah.
We tried.
what about
We
you, John? Oh, go ahead.
I unfortunately was battling a cold for the most part of the weekend.
Oh, I'm sorry
Like
to hear
I was
that.
feeling a little. I mean, I was feeling a little bit under the weather for the week, and I kind of powered through it. And then on Saturday, it just hit me like a ton of bricks.
Oh, sorry, John.
Oh, Doug. Hello, Doug.
Morning.
Good.
But I do have two interesting things that happened this weekend. So if you guys don't mind, if I kind of
go
steer the conversation to that.
go ahead.
So which would you guys want to talk about first, games or TV? Because I can talk about both.
You know
Let's
what we haven't talked about in a while?
games.
Games.
There you go.
I've been playing Raft with my buddy Dan for like basically like once a week. Like every on Sundays we've been getting together, and that's been our go-to game because it's been pretty laid back and enjoyable until yesterday. We're playing Raft, and we come up to this giant island. Like the whole point about Raft is that like you start on a very small boat, and there's a bunch of stuff floating in the water, and you eventually have to kind of like build a ship, like and like you have to find locations and whatever. So we find this giant island, and I know from looking a little bit online that this is the next major destination. It's like there's usually like you find a couple of small things, and then every once in a while, like you find this big location, and it steers you towards the next thing.
Okay.
So we stock up on some equipment, we leave a bunch of stuff on the boat, get onto the island, and there's this giant bear, and like in seconds, it kills both of us.
Nice.
Well,
Awesome.
Like
Awesome.
literally, like boom, like and like faster than any other enemy in the game. Like we've run into other creatures and monsters. Like there's even a shark, and the shark doesn't kill you as fast as this thing did.
Poke the bear.
I eventually find out online that if it hits you once, it automatically takes out 50% of your health.
poke the
The way
bear.
that works out, so the way that it works out is it does basically 50-50, and then like you're dead.
Well, duh. But like, my question to you is, why'd you poke the bear?
We didn't poke the bear. The bear literally ran up to us like the second we got onto the island and just started mauling us.
Don't you understand that you never poke the bear?
How are you? How are you supposed to get around them? What did it say online?
Well, so what you're supposed to do is there's this big box that says 5 wild berries. On the island, there's a bunch of like these bushes of berries, and if you put berries into the box, it'll permanently distract the bear, which is kind of
Okay.
dumb, but whatever. Here's the problem, though. Some resources in the game are easier to acquire than others. In order to get to a lot of late game stuff, you need a lot of metal. And metal you can only find by finding smaller islands going underwater and mining ore. But there's no way of knowing how much ore an island's going to have or how much is going to be on hand at any given time. So it's one of the rarer resources in the game.
So you got to play the game to win
And
the
then
game.
there's sharks.
What was it?
Yes, right. And then there's sharks. Like there's constantly sharks distracting you. So the point is that, like, if you want to have a lot of metal, you have to grind constantly, like
So, John,
constantly.
Was this
Anyway.
This was Raft?
Yeah.
Raft. Anyway, the point is that when you die in the game, you lose everything. Like you lose every single item you had on you. It's all just instantly gone.
that makes sense.
And if you go back to where you died, it's not there. Like it doesn't stay there so you can go acquire to pick it up. You literally just lose everything. So me and Dan, who didn't have all of our stuff on the island, but took a lot of high-end equipment with us, and again, we're going to need to like go for resources and whatever, basically lost a shit ton of stuff. And we lost it like with no warning, with no no real idea from the game of like how cautious to be. So ultimately, we both just felt super demotivated after the fact. Of like this was a major like this was a huge blow. Like we literally got set back, not hours, like days worth of work.
John, so Zynar said titanium is even harder to get. There's a titanium in the game as well.
I haven't even seen it yet. So if titanium is a thing, then yeah, we haven't even encountered that.
Maybe from the cities.
Yeah, that's like there's another location. That's one of the, as of right now, that's one of the final locations. Is like some floating city you have to try to get to. But the point is that no, this was and the stupid thing is, there's really not that much you have to do on the island. Like as I was running around and doing stuff, I encountered like 3 of the only 4 spots you have to go to on the island. So if the bear was located a little bit further in, like yeah, we would have been set behind, but we would have made a lot more forward progress, and maybe would have still lost some of our stuff, but would have accomplished at least a good chunk of what we needed to do.
So the lesson is to walk onto every island naked first.
Yeah.
No, this is the only location where something like this happens. Most of the other islands are either uninhabited, or while they do have bears, they go down pretty quickly. Like most bears, you can take down in a couple of hits, and they don't do 50% damage.
Well, you know what you need to do?
This
John?
is a special bear.
Yes, yeah. You gotta like distract it, bring some honey, maybe.
Berries in a box.
There is honey, but that doesn't work. You can't distract it with food.
You need.
Well, you know what?
You actually need to put.
Resolve.
You need to put berries in a box, so it is food that you're distracted with, or maybe or maybe it takes the berries out of the box and just plays with the box like a cat.
It takes the berries out of the box and it gets the hose again.
You're also much more likely. You're more likely to encounter the bear before you encounter any berries.
You know what, John? That sounds right for real life too.
That's not true. Berries are much more abundant than bears. Don't. You are more likely to encounter berries before a bear. Don't give me that.
I don't know.
This is the great discussions we have at 6:30 in the morning.
The point is, like, it was
relative.
It was a really nasty setback, and even some of the other games that we've played, like, or other games I've played in general, don't have that kind of rigid back to start mentality. Like, even with something like Minecraft, if you could find where you died, it might take you a long time, depending on where you spawn or whatever. You might be able to find your stuff. Or even in an MMO, like, you don't lose all your gear. Like, it's not like if you're playing an MMO, you don't drop every single thing on you, and there's no way of ever getting it back ever. Like, you might lose your progress, and you might get kicked back all the way to start, but, like,
Never.
you don't lose every single item you held, so...
John, you're not allowed to have any of your stuff.
Like, even like Project Zomboid, like, I know, like, with that, I'm assuming if you die, like, game over.
Unless Zynar pointed out that unless you swim in lava in Minecraft, which is true, you do lose your gear.
Yeah, but that's unfortunate, and that can't happen.
But I will point out that the mechanic, it's not the fact that you swam in lava. What happens is when you die in lava, all your equipment still appears there like it would normally. It's just now in lava, and it burns.
Right.
It burns up. Because if you die on the edge of lava, there is a chance that some of your items will appear in the squares outside the lava, and you can pick that up. I have done that. But you
It
are right,
burns, John.
Einar. Any
It burns.
any equipment that appears on squares over lava will get burned when you die.
So, I mean, have you guys encountered anything similar, like games where you suffered a major setback and almost didn't want to continue?
Yes, Eve Online.
Yeah. That was like so
Yeah, it's like
like
didn't even think about it.
no, he's like I have this on deck. I have this on deck. When John asks, it's coming out right now.
Yes.
Uh,
Everyone's gonna know. Eve Online, hate it. Okay, got
No,
it.
I love Eve Online, but I had a massive huge setback.
Oh yeah,
and
Eve
it did,
Online.
but it
uh,
did it take the want? Oh, yes, that's
Yes,
true, Zynar.
yes, it
I
did
forget
take
about that.
some of the want of the enjoyment of the game for a while. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I can relate to that. It's like, wow, this is stupid. I mean, you just say this is stupid. You move on from that game because it's just a pain to have
You
to
know
go
how much
back.
ore I mined to get that ship?
How
Months of mining to get that stupid ship.
how big was your ship, John?
Well, like, you don't lose the ship. Like, everything that's on the ship is still there. It's like that, at least, thankfully, is fine. The issue, though, is that, like, you lose all your equipment. And the problem with Raft, the biggest hurdle with the way Raft is, because otherwise it'd probably just be too easy, is that there's always a fight for some kind of resource. Like, there's a situation where, like, there's only so many resources that you can guarantee. Like, to some degree, you can guarantee food. To some degree, you can guarantee water. To some degree, you can guarantee wood. But you can't guarantee metal. You can't guarantee plastic. And the problem is in order to get yourself basically back up to a position where you could start doing all that stuff again, you need, plastic, metal, things like that. So you could end up in a situation where it's like, okay, I'm literally stranded. I need equipment that I can't make because I can't get the stuff that I need. So either I have to restart or I have to push myself much further back than I was just for the sake of whatchamacallit,
What did
starting over again.
what did you call it? So I will agree, and um, I hope so, Zynar. I hope so.
What's Zion
what
saying?
would it say?
Zynar said, at a certain age, can you guarantee wood?
Uh,
Um, I will say this: having played Raft a total of twice, I could easily see how annoying the game. I play these types of games. I play the builders. I like builder games. This is a game that is not going to be fun, and I realize why is because it's not so much that everything that you do you need to build and it wears out and you have to rebuild. Like you get nothing permanent. Okay, I get it. But on top of that non-permanency, nothing you do is permanent ever. The raft isn't permanent because you got that stupid shark. If you leave your raft to go do things, the shark's going to eat your raft. If you're on the
Oh
island too
man.
long, all it is. It's just going to destroy your entire raft.
But not only that, if you don't drop an anchor down and if you leave your raft, it could float away and you're not getting it back.
Yeah, I get that. But that's a point. You know, if you don't have the metal to make to make an anchor, then you can't really stop at the island because it could potentially float away. And I'm not against the grinding, Zynar, but I am against, you kill the shark, one comes back. It, if you leave your boat, the shark's going to attack your boat and it's going to rip it apart. So if you're constantly wasting, and I'll say wasting, right? Wasting resources on keeping your boat repaired or expanding it so you could build something else that's going to wear out that you're going to have to rebuild. And there's no safe place, and that's a problem I find with this. Not that
There's
it,
also no
yeah,
there's
it's
no guaranteed resources either. A big part of the game is that you have to find the resources They're just floating out there, out and about. Like you can't. There's no way to lock in and make sure I'll always have this, I'll always have that. Like later on in the game, you could do that, and it takes a bit of time. But like you could just have a bad string of luck where it's like, and granted, like if you die, you just start back on the boat. So I mean, worst case scenario, like you can kind of like cheese it by being like, all right, well, like really, I could just kind of forcefully mine as much as I can, and if I come back, I'll just die and I'll just start it all over again. But like a setback is a major setback because it undoes so much more progress, and it depending on where you're at, like I said, that level of randomness of like, well, now I have to basically start all over, and I have no idea how I'm going to get some of the stuff that I need because I invested so much, and now I have to find it again. That kind of stuff.
Well,
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, like I said, having played it a couple of times, not as much as you, John. So, but having played it, I could easily see the fact that there's no safe place. Uh, all these things have a safe place in general. Well, it's not necessarily they give you a safe place, but you could build a place that's generally safe, and or you
so
could go to a place that's generally safe, and Raft doesn't have any of them.
so there's no place.
Well, no,
Right.
the only way, like for example, the only way to really give yourself like some safe space is you can make a buffer for the shark. Like the shark can only attack the outermost ridge of the raft. So what you could do, but you have to spend plastic and wood to do so,
Well, that's what I
is you
mean.
could literally just build a layer of wood between what you want to keep and what you don't mind losing, and just let the shark go to town eating that. Because yeah, you could fight the shark, but a lot of the times if you're busy, if you're not around, the shark's going to wreck whatever it is you're doing. I mean, whatever it is it's going for before you can get back there.
But that's my point. That doesn't create a safe space. That's just a waste of resources, right? You can't build it like it's not like you could build an outer layer on your raft that has spikes on the bottom that stabs the shark when it comes, right?
Well,
You can't do
you
that.
could you could you could make a fortified spot, but the problem is that requires metal. And again, that's it goes back to the whole thing of like, well, then you're basically just floating around aimlessly, hoping to find an island with a lot of metal, going down there, mining the metal just for the sake of like saying, I'm going to keep the shark at bay. Oh, but it's not even that easy because in order to actually use the metal, you need to smelt the metal. So that means you need clay, you need sand, you need planks. So it's like by the time you could actually fortify your boat, you've already spent a ton of time on it. And at that point, there's so many other things you really need the metal for that it's going to be like a cost analysis thing of like, do I really want to spend all this time and energy trying to, um, trying to essentially like keep the shark off my back,
Well, that's
So
tough.
so Zyno, right? It's you know what? It is a great team game. Um, and it does allow you to make a buffer. The shark bait keeps the shark at bay, but it's not. I agree, but it's not really creating a true buffer there. It's an active fishing
It's
for the
stalling.
yeah.
All it is stalling.
It's an active buffer. It's not a passive buffer. Not like something you can build it and forget it type of thing. It's never you can never get to that point, and that's okay. It is what it is. That's what the game is. John just had to learn the hard way that each death brings you 4 steps backwards.
Yeah.
One step
Well,
forward, 4 steps backwards.
and some good news: Gary Oldman turned 63 yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. So do we want to talk about the other thing I wanted to talk about?
Yeah,
We
let's talk
have
about the
10
other thing.
minutes left.
I did something for the first time this weekend that I honestly never thought I would do.
Did you watch Powerpuff Girls?
I did not watch Powerpuff Girls because I've actually seen Powerpuff Girls. It was not a bad show.
The original or the remake?
Oh, God, no, the original. The
Oh,
original. The
okay,
remake
good,
was
good,
quite
good.
good.
The remake was horrible.
I watched episodes of Star Trek.
Which one?
Why would? Yeah. What?
Next
Wait, hold on.
Generation.
Hold on.
Okay.
Can I have to ask this question. Why is that something you never thought you would do?
Because as a kid, Star Trek was on, and it was always just this very like dry, drawn out, boring show that I was, or at least that's what it looked like to me. It's just like, I don't want to watch Star Trek, or oh man, there goes like I have to wait for this to be over until I can watch something else. Like Star Trek just wasn't appealing to me as a kid.
Well,
I
you
can
know what?
understand that.
Even as like a teenager, like even when I was like getting older, it's like I never really actively sought out Star Trek, possibly because of that whole like mental block of like, this isn't really for me, whatever. Like, what actually ended up doing it for me was two things. Was one, a couple of reviewers online who I follow on a regular basis, kind of going back and talking about it, in basically highlighting how good Star Trek was compared to where Star Trek is as of right now. And two, the fact that as an adult, I really got into Law and Order, which is a very slow, drawn out procedural show. I'm like, well, if I could actually sit through Law and Order, I could probably sit through a Star Trek episode. And so, and based on what the guys who I watched online do, they're like, start with season 3. Like season 1's a bit of a mess. Season 2 has some very high highs and some extremely low lows. Your safest bet is just start at season 3. They have a lot of the kinks worked out. So at that point, it's mostly just, maybe a lot less misses than hits.
I mean, I grew up watching Star Trek, with my father and whatnot, and like we watched Enterprise together and watched, he loved Next Generation. It's just his thing, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I am much more of a Star Trek fan. I'm sorry, a Star Wars fan than I am a Star Trek fan, but Sir Patrick Stewart will always have a link to my heart because he's just a great overall human being.
Yeah. I want to see the results of their fight in the commercial.
Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah, no, this weekend I did not watch anything really.
So John, so what did you think of the Next Generation?
I've been liking it so far. I mean, there's definitely some episodes that have been better than others, but like it's overall like it's been well. Part of the funny thing too, though, is a lot of the people who are on Star Trek, I remember because almost as like a joke, a lot of them actually were on the show Gargoyles as a kid. So like now seeing them like in where they originated, well not where they originated, but seeing what they did before that and like working backwards, it's kind of like funny because it's like, all right, well I recognize that guy, I recognize that guy. I mean, they're all great actors. It's just I think that because it's been around forever, there's a lot more jokes about what Star Trek is like than how Star Trek actually is. So it's fun kind of watching the show and thinking like, it's not as bad as people kind of pointed it out to be, or it's not as goofy. Like, yeah, there's still some parts of it where kind of like, whatever. But like, I'm probably going to still keep watching it, or at least catching a couple of episodes here and there.
Okay, I watched I went back and I watched Enterprise, the series. What did you think of that, Doug?
So like I thought Enterprise was okay. It was pretty good. They were trying to speak to the current generation in the early 2000s, which was something that they needed to do. But I really feel like what really brought Star Trek back to like the fans was the universe remake, where they kind of like essentially redid the timeline for the universe in the movies. And like I think that started in like what 2009, I want to say, with that first remake movie. But it wasn't really a remake; it was just an alternate timeline and whatnot. But I thought that was pretty cool. Scott Bakula?
Scott
Yeah.
Bakula, yes.
Yeah, he's definitely, in my opinion, he's definitely the epitome of sci-fi TV man. Like that's just he's just been in like a bunch of good sci-fi TV shows, even if they were like lower on the tier list. They still have a cult following. I mean, Scott Bakula he's a name. Like when you can actually, he's a B-list actor that you can like remember. First of all, his name is just iconic, but second of all, I personally think he's just a well-rounded, okay actor in general. And it's pleasant to watch him in certain aspects, mostly sci-fi aspects, but he's cheesy. He's a cheesy 90s actor. And, and sometimes you just love it.
And,
So
and
I mean,
Zynar, and wait, And Zynar is correct. He did get beat up regularly.
Yeah, he did. He literally did. He would always get thrown over, and it was like always the cheesiest. Like, yeah, some actor. Yeah, that was definitely a move. There was a pad there. He fell over there, and he's like, oh, he must have back pain, so they didn't really push him too hard this time. Um, uh, no, I honestly think that Enterprise it was a little bit too early for its time, and I think they needed more. I think they just needed a stronger supporting cast for him. But other than
Like
that,
if it came out later, like if it came out a little bit more closer to now, it probably would have done better.
I honestly think if it came out when the Star Trek reboot came out, and they like kind of I really feel like and I hate to say this, but the DC universe, like the DCU on the WB, if Star Trek started doing something similar to that at the time that they did it, I feel like they would have had a huge hit on their hands. Like, mixing it kind of with the movies in a little bit, but that would have been pretty cool. But I think now what they're doing is pretty interesting on CBS. I hear listen, I haven't watched any of it yet because I didn't want to really spend $6 on CBS Plus or whatever it is. But
well, it's probably come to HBO Max now.
It's what?
It's probably going to pivot over to HBO. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's going to probably pivot over to Paramount Plus. I forgot about that.
Yeah, no, I won't. I'm not gonna subscribe to Paramount Plus.
Like that's the thing I forgot is that I've been watching Star Trek: The Next Generation because it's on Netflix. But once it goes away, if it goes away, that's probably it for me because I'm not going to subscribe to Paramount Plus.
It's too many at this point. It's just too many.
I may only do it specifically because I don't have TV. And if I find value in watching specific things, then I may do it. I have Netflix, I have Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime, though, I order enough from Amazon that the extra TV benefits really are just extra TV benefits. Right?
Same here.
So,
Same here.
So that to me, yeah, exactly, right. To me, I think that Amazon Prime is by far I get the most benefit out of that. I probably order anywhere between 4 to 5 items a month, right, from Amazon, I would say on average. So I get free shipping on all of those items, which would probably come out to $25-$30 in shipping if I didn't. So I'm just super happy with that.
I was a Prime member just for shipping for a long time.
Me too.
So the movies are just a bonus, and I'm good with that. But yeah. I can't take yet another one. I just can't do it. I'm not going to. I have.
It's the problem is like they're not greedy. Like a lot of networks, they used to work with other streaming services.
It's not. John, I want to just really jump in there. It's not. I don't think it's about greed. I think it's about capitalizing on a space that they see that people are going to.
That's great. I don't see. Yeah. I don't see how that's not greed. They what they don't want is they want the money directly as opposed to working a deal with Hulu and getting less money for their content.
Right, because every single network doesn't need its own streaming service. Like the only reason why Paramount's even able to do it in the first place is because I need a lid for that. Is because Paramount, actually owns Viacom, so they get.
I need a lid for Paramount.
So anything that's like, that means Nickelodeon, that means MTV, that means, because for a while Nickelodeon was doing a lot of stuff with Netflix, and now that they're basically pulling out of that and going instead to like this Paramount Plus thing with like Comedy Central and MTV, so it's like, okay, it's like, well, now they're just going to basically yank and gut whatever they can from the regions they already have.
I'm just gonna counter with, we don't know what the financials look like for these other streaming services, right? We don't know how Hulu's financial looks like. First of all, Hulu's owned by Disney, so it's not like Disney's gonna make a deal with Paramount.
But they weren't. No, wait. But they weren't. They didn't. They're only owned by Disney. What, past year and a half?
Right.
It finally went through. So before that, Hulu was its own type of stream. It made the deals just like a regular cable network.
Right.
And you could get into like. If you had Hulu, you were able to sign up for other apps.
Right.
So.
And that's the same thing for some other services. But here, if you look at Netflix, right? So Netflix operates on a negative, like on a crazy negative. Like they borrow money left and right for their services. They're going to be. I feel like it's going to be the same as Amazon eventually, right? where Amazon had remember they had their first freaking positive year like 20 years after they went live or some crap like that. It was insane, right? But that's what my personal opinion.
That's just hiding money. Let's not get into the accountings because you could easily show a negative and still have a lot of working capital.
Right, because here's the other thing too. Like I've already seen it happen with several other streaming services. Like I had Verve, and Verve used to have both Nickelodeon content and even Cartoon Network content. And once HBO Max became a thing, like once they finally hammered out all the details so that HBO, which owns Cartoon Network and a bunch of other things as well, had their own platform for it, they yanked everything out of Verve, like basically gutted it. So now all that content that used to be part of this other program it's not like it's going to another one. They're creating their own. They're just transporting it to their own private one and hoping that people are going to go to that. You know, same thing with the DC Universe. DC Universe, which is a terrible idea because it's a nice idea on paper of like, oh, well, all this Warner Brothers content is very popular, so let's give it a platform. But meanwhile, like, no, we're going to give it its own platform. We're going to charge an equivalent amount to like Netflix and hope that like, you know, new shows, like 2 or 3 new shows are going to be enough to pull people over, you know, plus like comics. It's like comics, I hate to say it, like even though they're getting bigger, they're still kind of niche. So the idea that like you're going to base a whole streaming platform on the backs of like 2 shows and, oh, hey, do you want to read Batman? Most people are going to say no.
Well, I'm just gonna say this. Like I subscribe to Netflix, Hulu, I have Amazon Prime, I have Shudder because I think Shudder is amazing, right? And then I kind of like my parents have subscriptions, not subscriptions, but they have a TV subscription, right? So I use their login for a lot of other things as well. Now, for me, I would consolidate my Shudder subscription into my Amazon subscription, right? Now, it's the same cost, but I'm accessing it through Amazon instead, which is beneficial because I'm paying through Amazon, so it's technically just one charge, right?
So Doug, this is going to be long drawn out. Let's carry this over because it's 7:00.
Oh, yep, sounds good.
It's okay. And then Dave, take us home.
All right, thank you everybody for checking us out on Over Coffee this morning. Really appreciate you checking in, especially Zynar chatting it up. As you can see, we talk about games and just about anything else, but that's great. We'd love to have your comments,
services are
feedback.
important.
Yes, everything is important. What'd you say is important?
Streaming services are important.
Streaming services are important. That is absolutely true. All right, so hope everybody has a great rest of your day. And Tuesday, we'll see you Wednesday morning, 6:30 again. And this is not a streaming week, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so there is no John show tonight, but it will be next week. So World Salad. All right, great. Have a great day and good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.